Welcome back to Under Oath.
All right, guys, welcome back. Craig Lynd here on my partner Jeff Kaufman's show. He lets me come on once in a while and argue with him.
Every show.
To explain why he's wrong. So, Jeff, something to talk about in terms of jury nullifications.
Explain jury nullification.
Jury nullification is where everybody in the courtroom, including everyone in the jury, knows for sure that a crime was committed, but they go back and they come back with a verdict of not guilty.
Or the opposite.
That's true. Everyone knows the person wasn't actually convicted of anything, and they come back with a guilty verdict.
Yeah.
Just because of the circumstances that have nothing to do with the case.
And that is worse than anything else.
So jury nullification is a bad thing if it works against the defendant.
And also if it works against the victim.
But it also, if it also works against the victim when it works for the defendant.
Yeah, I mean.
So the setup, here's why this is an issue. Mom is sick and tired of her kid getting bullied. Kid gets beat up. He gets bloody nose. Sometimes he gets his shoes.
A concussion.
Taken. Gets a concussion. Has expensive AirPods or earbuds.
Taken. $166, $166 for those.
She is completely frustrated. She doesn't know what to do. She
Tired.
The police won't do anything.
Damn kids.
Police won't do anything. The school won't do anything. The parents of the miscreants won't do anything.
Miscreants.
What is she?
I like that word.
What would you call people who rob their fellow students other than miscreants? Our friends from the 80s?
Is there a certain age that you can't be a miscreant anymore?
Yeah. I think under 18, you're a miscreant.
Okay. All right.
After 18, I think you're just a scumbag.
We got to Google that. Here's the deal. You either move your kid out of the school or teach him how to fight.
In this case, mom showed up and confronted the kids, the miscreants, with a knife and supposedly a small baseball bat. I don't know if it was one of those like tire beaters.
Vehicle.
And then that didn't necessarily have the effect that she wanted. And so she got into her Honda Passport and then drove at the kids.
Was that an EV? Electric vehicle? I mean, he might not even heard it coming. Just wondering. Okay.
I don't.
I'd hate to be run over by an EV. That'd be embarrassing. What happened? I got run over by an electric.
I guess not. It's a Honda Passport. It's probably a few years old. So this is last year.
It's the only thing you hear coming behind you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the kid screaming.
Sounds like a golf cart.
The kid got run over twice and broke his hip.
But they're lightweight. Come on, it's an EV.
And they charged him. I don't know if it's an EV. They charged her attempted murder, I think. And the jury acquitted her. How does a jury acquit when she runs the guy over twice?
Do you know how you do it?
Twice.
You call the victims to the stand, and they come off scumbags. I'm gonna explain how this works. About 20 years ago, I had a case. It was a stalking case where my client was unlikable, but so was the person. Now, stalking doesn't require you to have a relationship or a sexual component or interested. You could be just you throwing your neighbor and you having arguments and yelling at each other. It's a pattern of conduct. It doesn't require a sexual component or any kind of relationship. Well, the people who were actually filed the stalking charge were so unlikable. And here's the thing. There were two charges. One, stalking. Second one is violating the stalking order, which was just talking to the person. Now, they had my client on tape talking to the client. And it wasn't they didn't believe that the tape was phony. They just hated the victims so much.
So at some point, the jury just says, we don't care what the law is. We're not letting this person get punished. And it's either because they like that person so much, in the case of a celebrity case maybe, or they hate the victim so much. Johnny Depp?
We're going to say Johnny Depp got it?
Oh, I don't know that Johnny Depp got a jury nullification. I didn't follow that case close enough.
I think he did.
Yeah?
I think he did. I think he caught it because he's likable. And he was likable. I mean, Captain Jack. I mean, come on. Captain Jack Sparrow, likable guy. Pirate. Thief. Murderer. But we like him. Here's what happens. If the jury hates or identifies with the person on trial, they're going to walk. Or at least mistry the case, meaning that they couldn't come to an agreement.
Well, I mean, it's New York. And this is 1 year ago, right? This happened 1 year ago in New York. So the police aren't doing anything. The police aren't doing anything. You know the school's not doing anything.
Hold on, let me do something.
So what else is she supposed to do, this mom?
New York City, very liberal. Long Island, a little more conservative. You have a liberal jury who will say, no, you don't have a right to run over kids. It's wrong. But then you have a conservative jury going, those kids needed a lesson. That's how it happens.
All right.
It's your jury. For example, OJ. People think, OJ was found not guilty. No, OJ was found not guilty by a Los Angeles jury. He was not found not guilty by the Brentwood jury that he was supposed to go in front of. But the state attorney, the prosecutor, Marsha Clark, thought she was so smart. Oh, I can win this without even a problem with the LA jury. You and I both know if we have a client, and we just had a case, you and I just had a trial where we were representing 7 Latinos. We couldn't find a Latino jury or even a jury member in Tennessee to save our life.
I mean, forget the 12 jury panel. I mean, the whole
white
that they brought in. What was that? 50, 60 people they brought in?
The whitest people I know.
I didn't see one Latin person.
I felt like the minority in the room when I saw those people. I was like, God bless. I had to hide my yarmulke.
Those are my people, though. Those are my people.
It was no good. But that's what happens. You get jury nullification, or you get the opposite, where juries do look on the other end. They don't want to help the person out.
What do you think about that, though? As a lawyer, is that something that when juries do that, though? So let's say this happens. Isn't that a message to New York, to the state attorney, to the police? Hey, you guys aren't taking care of business.
No, what I find out is when justice can't be guesstimated within 98%, we have a problem, because then people are going to go, well, I can get away with it. This little boy pushed my kid. I'm running over with my car. I think order is important. And I think anytime the value of helping one person when they did something and maybe they're not that bad, get off, I think it affects the whole system itself, and you can't trust it. And then what happens is the parents of the kid who got run over go, okay, well, I'm going to take a gun and I'm going to put a bullet in that kid's head. Point is this. In this scenario, you basically open up the door to no order. For example, let's say my daughter said something.
You create a system of ever-increasing vigilantism.
Anarchy. We are a law-based society, and anytime people can cheat the system through sympathy or possibly something that people don't know, or racism, for example. Remember how racist the juries were in the 30s, 40s, and 50s and 2020? They sometimes will go, oh, black defendant? Nope. Black plaintiff? Nope. That's where you have problems. I don't identify with the victim, or I do identify with the victim. And that's a problem.
You're saying that from a jury perspective.
Yes.
They either like or dislike.
Because of color.
The victim.
Or race, religion, creed, color, nationality. When you have that, it's open season for bad stuff. You shouldn't have it. And just because
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than just whether or not they like the victim or the defendant. I think it has to do with the system and society they're in at the time. If police really aren't enforcing the law, it's just get away with whatever you can get away with in New York at this point. They're finding that unacceptable, and this is their way of expressing that.
What if the kid died?
Well, that's a hypothetical. We don't know what if the kid died.
It happens all the time.
If he had, I don't know that the jury verdict would be the same.
OJ got away with it. OJ got away with brutally murdering.
We're talking about this case.
No, we're talking jury nullification. And the jury was nullified in the most famous murder case ever because the N-word was used. And the jurors identified with the negativity around it. It was 5 billion to 1. They had the DNA. They knew what they had. But because one of the officers lied about using the N-word in an interview 10 years beforehand, he was found not guilty.
Hold on. It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Not really.
The officer that lied about using the N-word just so happened to be the officer that found that DNA evidence, which leads to the 5 billion to 1. So if you reject the officer as being a liar, then you can't trust anything that officer brought to the table. And that's probably why
here's where we
the
rewrite history in a
jury
bad way.
said, hey, no way.
That's-
We can't trust this officer. We can't trust the evidence they presented because of the
The
officer being a
DNA
liar.
evidence was found in his car, not only the glove.
Yeah.
So let's be fair.
Yeah, planted by this officer.
Planted by the officer.
Do you remember the question they asked him? Did
Which
you
one?
plant the evidence? I plead the fifth. He said, I plead the fifth
Be tricky.
to the question. That was a good trick.
You know why the
No,
fifth?
listen.
Oh, don't. The
Defense
audience is going,
attorney-
he pled it because he did it. Tell him why they pled the fifth. You know why.
Defense attorney did a good job
Okay, why did he plead the fifth?
because he doesn't want to convict himself.
And
Because
what
he would have
issue?
convicted himself of perjury.
Of perjury for using the N-word.
Correct. So he
But
can't
not for
answer,
planting evidence.
So he can't just pick and choose.
Right.
So he knew the question in advance. Like,
So the
you
jury was
guys at home
known.
might not know this, but the witness on the stand, they pretty much know the questions way, way in advance. And he knows that he can't talk about ever using the N-word. So if he refuses to answer any questions, then the judge has to relieve him. So when the defense attorneys got up to ask him the question, they didn't ask him about using the N-word. They knew that his answer, no matter what their question was going to be, had to be, I plead the fifth. So the question was, did you plant evidence? Knowing that he has to give the answer, I plead the fifth. That's all you needed. You could have never convicted anybody. It doesn't matter what the DNA evidence said.
So is that justice? Answer, no. And the jury found somebody
Correct.
not guilty,
Correct.
and justice was not served, and two people
Because they couldn't
two people
trust the
died.
officer. Yeah, they couldn't trust the officer.
So I've got a lot of people don't know when they go into a courtroom, there is a boatload of information they're not allowed to know. For example, this one, which is the insurance companies have spent billions for this. They're not allowed to know that there's insurance because they're afraid a jury is going to say, well, there's insurance, we'll give them a check anyway. But here's the negative to it. The defense attorneys are scamming the jury to believe the money's coming from the poor defenseless person at their table who has no money.
Yes, this is true.
So
It is a tragedy,
yes,
and it needs to be changed.
and it's not going to be.